Welcome back to Plague Scythe Studios, everyone, and welcome back finally to the Frankenbox build. We've been on quite the break from this series because I haven't really been able to find the parts I've been wanting, and it's been so long that the set and everything looks completely different. New camera, got lights, it looks a lot better than it probably did last time, but we're going to carry on because I've been really wanting to get back into this. So my initial plan, as I'd said before, was to take an Xbox 360 case, throw in some mini ITX parts, chop it up, make it work. But what I have found is that there's really not a lot of scrap Xbox 360s online available to buy, whether it be Craigslist, eBay, whatever. And you would think it would be kind of commonplace, but I guess all the old Red Ring of Death Xboxes have either been trashed or whatever, sold to people that are doing something like I am, but for whatever reason, they're kind of hard to come by. So my initial plan was to marry basically two of them together and maybe chop up a really cheap PC case to use as the foundation to screw in all the parts and then kind of lay it in there. But what I've decided to do for now is to get a fully functioning mini ITX case and build around it and maybe chop it up later. But as it turns out, my needs are that I do need a kind of home theater PC type setup right now to record some stuff on a couch setting and just for general mobility. And matter of fact, hopefully sooner rather than later, we'll be looking at some other mobile solutions in a more music vein. So that'll be interesting. But for now, let's build a mini ITX PC. So hopefully by the end of this video, we'll have a functioning computer with the parts that you've seen before. And then later we'll get into decorating and making it look all cool and customized and all that good stuff. So let's open this box we have. Now, this is from the GEEK store. How fitting, although I would consider myself more of a dork than a geek. Geek is like a term of endearment nowadays. Definitely about that. Make sure there's no shipping information so you guys can't track me down. So I looked around for some reasonably priced mini ITX cases, and what I found was that they either sucked, they had way too many features for wanting to be able to chop up the thing, or they just weren't going to be useful for my components. So one of the weird things is that we're using a, I don't remember the name of the standard power supply that we're using, but it's really strange. It's, you know, thin and fat, long, compared to a normal ATX power supply or one of the SFX units. So I had to get a case that was at least compatible with that in some way. And I found GEEK. Never heard of them, but they looked like they made some pretty quality cases, especially for the money. So I'm really excited to build in this. Ooh, look at that. So this is our case, and I guess we'll open that up momentarily. Wow, I dig this a lot. So let's start, I guess, from the front. We have a very minimal I/O. We got two USB 3.0s, which we won't be able to use at their full 3.0 speed. We're going to have to adapt it to 2. Not a big deal. Mic and audio headphone input. We have the 2 short card. That's very important. This is half height for your GPU slots, which is very cool because that's what I'm using for the GTX 1050 Ti to, you know, reduce the height, reduce the footprint. And a lot of mini ITX cases just didn't use that, which is kind of strange to think about it. When that's really the only form factor that's going to work. So that's another reason I was interested in this case. And that is the unusual power supply cutout. And like I said, an SFX unit would be more square, kind of that length, but this was able to fit basically everything you need in a really short and attractive form factor. I mean, this looks like something that you could buy that would be like a Steam box or something like that. It's not much taller than a 360. Yeah, kind of over here looking at my consoles over there. It's very console sized, and it's going to absolutely kick ass for the type of performance we're getting out of it. So yeah, let's open this thing up, and I'm really digging this acrylic cover they got going on here. I like it. So yeah, let's just unscrew it. Let's not take off any of this really neat, what would you call that? This is the same material that would be under like chalkboards and school desks and all that good stuff. But yeah, it's really nice because it's kind of acrylic tempered looking glass. It's obviously not tempered glass, but the acrylic will look nice. So yeah, let's get this thing unscrewed, get the parts in here. We'll start building. Oh man, just discovered a really nice little gouge here to my table. I'm thinking of getting like a full mouse pad or something eventually, but well, we'll have to see. So yeah, let's just go ahead and get this thing taken apart. I'm really interested in seeing the craftsmanship. I don't know exactly where this came from. I mean, it has a Chinese looking name on the acrylic here, but the shipping was initially going to be about half the cost of the case, and I was willing to eat that because it still came out to be about 65 bucks, and I was like, I'm willing to experiment. I want to get this thing done, and if it's, you know, kind of a small venture, I don't mind paying for that in this particular case. Man, I really like how they're wrapping that to keep it safe. That's a big plus to me, and we'll set that way out of the way. But once it shipped, I actually got refunded about $17 of it, credited back to PayPal, which is really cool of them. So appreciate that. So shipping, case, all that only came out to be right at 50, which I think this is going to be well worth the $50. All right, well, I can already see there's some really interesting features here. And you don't really need to take off this panel. The more I look at it, this is to disassemble the whole thing. So I'm going to put it back. I figure this is going to be another instance of like the last case I built in where you absolutely had to take off basically everything. So not looking like it for this. Looks fairly sturdy. I'll put these back. But looks like you could take the bottom panel off to access your motherboard if you have a new cooler you want to install and you don't want to take out the entire freaking motherboard tray, because that, like my what's it called, the cube in there, that's not an option. You're really stuck. If you put in a CPU cooler, you better be happy with it, because you're going to have to take out the entire thing to replace it. And I'm not sure how the camera angles are looking. I'm just in the general field of view here, so we're going to rock that for the time being. I think I'm curious as to if you need to take off that whole thing before. Okay, I think what you can do is just take this off. And I've not looked at the instructions. I've not looked at anything. It's kind of trial by fire here because, you know, I just like taking stuff apart as much as I do like putting stuff together. So, yep, I was correct. So all I gotta do is take that off, and that would have put it like so. So I can take this off. All right, before I hack away at it with my pathetic fingernails, let's see if there's any enlightenment in here. So we got motherboard, standoffs, all that good stuff, which is nice. We do not provide the installation guide with a hard copy. Please check the link. Please remove protective film before use. Yeah, I imagine that. So I think I could figure it out as far as installing it, but it's getting this shit off. I'm not sure. There we go. I kind of like this weird wax paper approach to it, because I feel like this is actually a bit more protective than all the plastic that they put on, you know, current acrylic and tempered glass cases, although they're super satisfying to peel off, and everyone knows that. I don't know that this is necessarily quite the same level of satisfaction. Oh, especially when it does that. That's infuriating. But I mean, this is a $40 case, and it's bare bones, and it's plastic, and it's acrylic, but it looks really well made and simplistic. And for what it's trying to do, I think that's exactly what I needed. Come on. Now I'm just getting frustrated. At least it's not leaving residue. Okay, that is off. That is good. Let's pick up the pieces. I guess I'll start unstringing stuff in here to get it out of the way for the motherboard. And then I'm not sure if it'll be easier. Yeah, let's leave that off and put it on at the last second, assuming that we can get a few of the standoffs on here first. That's interesting. It's 2 wires into one. Whatever floats your boat. Oh, I like that too. So all of these, let me make sure we're in frame. Yeah, we're really far back, but we are in frame. Are the hard drive activity, all that good stuff. So that's pretty neat. One of these should be power, because there's a power indicator. Power switch. I'm not. That's kind of concerning that you can just turn it off and on by doing that, but I also really dig it. So I guess we'll have to see how it behaves in the real world. Before we move any further, I think I want to go and grab the rest of the hardware, start planning stuff out. You're going to hear the air conditioning in the background. It's freaking hot in here, so apologies for that, but this is an amazing production quality as is, so, you know, I don't think that should be your biggest concern. Okay, all the goodies are behind it. What I'm really curious about is where we're supposed to put this SSD, so I am going to look at the build guide here before we jump straight in. So what we're looking at here, those are the SSD bays, which is extremely interesting. So you would pop those out and then use these, the standoffs for your board. So the SSDs are actually going to be under it. In this case, one SSD. So if you do add more, you can change them out, and probably the CPU cooler as well. So that's really, really neat. I never really, I checked. Yeah, it said the height on the CPU cooler is a max of 65. And I think that's a 72 now that I think about it. I thought it was a 62, but now that I'm thinking, so we might have some clearance issues there and not be able to run with the top thing off. But I'm not worried about any of this because this isn't like the final form. And I'm really glad this is plastic because the long term here is to kind of use the electronics and everything that's good and basically tear the rest out and you know, make it work for a Frankenbox build. Obviously, it's the name. Yep, 74 millimeters. That's grand. So it actually is too tall. Is what it is. So I didn't, you know, like I said, I didn't really care because it's going to be chopped up eventually. But yeah, it's going to have to be a thinner fan or something if we do run with it. I don't know. We'll see what happens. But for the time being, is what it is. Screws, screws, and more screws. And it won't be a PC build unless we end off with too many screws. So I think these are SSD indeed. Oh, it's going to be the other way because I see the acrylic and I'm like, oh, that's, you know, that's case side. No, it's not. That is internal. I don't want to jinx myself, but doing this on a Thursday night, this thing didn't deliver until right at 7 p.m., which is late for any delivery service where I live. But I have a feeling I'm gonna be up a little late, configuring or finalizing, whatever it may be. I just don't think this is gonna be a on-time ordeal for me. And I need to get closer to the camera, field of view every time I do this. Okay, so that's in. Now normally, SSDs, hard drives, all that good stuff are one of the last things I put in. So this is going to be a bit interesting, planning the power supply cable routing. But we will push on if I want this thing to be done. So I can tell you what I already really like about this is that when I want to chop it up, basically all I got to do is take off the parts of the front panel and side panels that I don't want because this back is fine and the bottom, and it's going to make it super easy because it's not metal and I won't feel like a complete piece of trash for chopping up a really nice case. And this is great. This is functional and I have no complaints, but you know, I don't feel as bad chopping up something that was injection molded versus some beautiful piece of aircraft aluminum. Okay. So, where I already have this connected due to the terrible CPU cooler design on this thing, spin it about, and by not the CPU cooler fault in general, it's the location of the CPU pin, I should say. So, yeah, let's do that. Yeah, we'll do that. Okay. I've never worked with one of these power supplies legitimately. I'm glad I've done most of the heavy lifting beforehand. I'm just gonna kind of set this in here gently. I've got standoffs on this thing already. Obviously they're not gonna work, but maybe it'd be helpful if I flip this around so you guys can see, and more importantly, I can see. Probably gonna wreck this side of the desk, but at this rate, I'll have to redo the entire finish. So that's interesting. I'm guessing these are, as generally goes, our power supply screws. Yep. IKEA makes some good stuff for the cost. As long as you don't use it, it will look nice forever. My problem is I'm constantly opening something or tearing something down, you know, using shit as a workbench that really wasn't designed to be doing that. But when you live in an apartment, you don't have much of a choice sometimes. And is that not the freaking PSU screws? I don't know that they are. Generally PSUs, they're the little short stubby fat screws with like, but these are long, which makes me think these are the longest ones in here. Maybe it's not seated correctly. Now we're making progress. Let's just see if only 1 out of 10 of these actually line up, as generally is the case. Yeah, that's good. That's good. We've already dropped like 800 screws. You know, I can honestly not name a single other case that uses this power supply form factor off the top of my head, at least commercially, or, you know, consumer available, not made by some OEM like Dell or something like that. Because the more I think about it, I've seen these power supplies, but I mean, who the hell would build with this normally? But I'm glad Mini builds, Micro builds. I think there's a new motherboard standard that got announced, CES or whatever, Computex, whichever one it was, that's even smaller than this, and it's baby size, and they can fit like a freaking 1070 in the size of something like that big. But even after all that, I still never seen power supplies getting smaller. But you would think wouldn't be a problem considering how efficient and crap they are now. It should be less of a problem than me getting this godforsaken screw in here. So I'm glad we did all of this first, because now I can see the little SATA cable I had going on here. Not gonna cut it in the least. I should also point out, I'm not wearing a an anti-static strap or anything of that sort. Would recommend if you're doing this, especially on carpet like I am. I might go grab it before I get the GPU out. But I'm not real terribly worried about this. I've grounded myself on enough stuff before doing this. What next? What's easiest? I believe it's time to install the standoffs here, which I think we're going to have to use. These are the screws. Yeah, they go on the other side of the case, so that's interesting design choice. This is such an unorthodox case, though. So many ways. And I do like it quite a lot. Oh boy, it is scratch city under here. That's nuts. Oh god, that's bad, dude. I guess it's this plastic. Yeah, I'm gonna have to get a mat to cover this entire desk at this rate. That, like, over there is spotless, but where I've worked on stuff over here, yeah, that's sickening how awful that is. If this was a, you know, something that I actually paid decent money for, I'd probably be fairly upset, but it's like a, what, $40, $50 tabletop. The Mini ITX standard, you've got like 3 that are normal on a square, and totally going double jointed right now, and then you got one that's like off center there, so it's harder to copy. And it's what it's looking like. That's it. Yeah, that has to be the pattern. So I don't know. Yeah, that one's bored out more than the rest of them. I see. That might be a problem. It's not significantly larger, but it could be a problem. There's days that I look at my full tower underneath this desk, And I question, why do I even build in large cases like that? The airflow is great and all, but now we're at a time where anything, you could shrink, you know, GTX 1080s into this kind of stuff and it still works. And then I start building stuff in this small form factor again. I'm like, oh yeah, that's right. Cable management's just the freaking worst. Yeah, this is without a doubt too large. But now that I'm seeing this, there we go. So they're not out of spec, I don't think. I'm using the wrong screw, but I couldn't tell they were the wrong screw because these are, yeah, they're hard drive screws. They made them the exact same. They made them the same spec as hard drive screws and they just so happen to work. Ain't that something? All right, well, I gotta undo 3 more of those. It's unfortunate. Okay, well, not gonna lie, that was a lot easier that way. So ignore the 15 minutes of bitching beforehand. Oh man, these lights make production a lot better, but good God, 600 watts shining down on you is not even directly. It's a freaking lamp. It's just reflecting some of it, and it's a beast. So I'm thinking before I ruin this desk on this side at least any further, that it might be a good idea to reevaluate my life choices, because now that I'm looking at this is probably for the legs here. Let's see, let's test that theory. I'm kind of hoping that ain't the case. Maybe not, doesn't seem long enough. All right, whether by design or not, they work, so that's what we're going with. And yeah, my whole contention with putting a giant mouse pad down on this desk to hide all this crap and prevent it from happening any further is twofold. Number one, I do want to get a MIDI controller fairly soon to track some drums, although I'm running into a latency issue in Cubase because apparently they've not fixed that in like 6 generations of the software, which hooray. But I think I found a workaround. So there's that, and it's going to kind of get in the way. It's kind of get in the way it looks. But if you've noticed, I don't know if it's how in the shot it is, but I have a freaking pillowcase over a Scarlett 6i6 because I did upgrade to that. So we're going to have to do some decoration, some fashion statements in general in this place. But there's also a new Logitech product out that it's a mouse pad. It's $100, but it recharges your mouse constantly. So you never have to plug in your wireless mouse, which as a wireless mouse user that, you know, plugs it up when I'm not really using it, that would be a freaking boon. And I could take that mouse that won't be needing such high ping, you know, high usage to work, because it's a great mouse. If I can get a mouse upgrade, that'd be sweet. All right, so that is getting along just fine. I think we are ready to tackle this stupid setup here, and we'll have to find a longer SATA cable for sure though. Let's go do that. You know, normally I would not like random colors like blue, even though I do have, there's a little bit of blue on the motherboard. It's in the PC below here, which was kind of a staple back in the day, so it would been basically impossible to find one without it. But for something that's so transparent, I usually would think, neutral. If you got a neutral case, or it's not red. Red seems okay, it's overdone, but it's not as bad as blue and green and freaking RGB City Central. But with a white case, it kind of goes really nice to have another color in there besides these rainbow bullshit going on there. That might work out. So we'll have it that. This will come out. We'll need it this way. I'm trying to plan where all these cables need to go. What I can get by kind of snaking around. And the really nice thing about this case, which is something I'm not used to operating with many ITXs, is that you can hide a lot of this stuff behind the motherboard. Like I said, that's kind of novel to me. I like that a lot. Cleans it up. Something that you're used to in larger cases, but definitely not something this small. That means you can sit there. And that will have the unfortunate side effect of making it look like, uh-oh. Did not expect to fill up on camera disk space that fast, but I did. So that was my bad. I'm really debating here on even plugging this up, because we're gonna have a lot of ports in the back, and yeah, I guess I could steal off the other case, because the next time I put anything in the other case, it better be freaking USB 3, so yeah, I guess we'll do that. USB 3.0 makers hate him. Try this one simple trick to make it actually not even close to its speed, but hey, wow. At this point, I'm just testing out of curiosity why this camera is just shutting off randomly, because this could be a problem in, you know, more serious productions, because this is just kind of, hey, I'm dicking around with computer parts. Because I just cleared a lot of its storage. I don't have it on an auto timer or anything like that. It's got 50% battery. If I can't shoot at like less than 50% battery, we got some problems. Some serious problems. I'm trying to remember if it's easier to do it this way, and I think it is, because these things are a freaking nightmare. Okay, I think I found the setting in the camera that was making it turn off after like a minute, so we should be okay. And I took the liberty of installing this to the best of my ability. I had to rerun the wires under and over a couple times to get everything in the right position, but I think we are good for the most part. So I'm gonna go ahead and strap this thing down. Getting it in, great. Let the dog start barking. That is not seem correct. I wonder, those are definitely the motherboard. Yeah, because those are the same ones I've used 1,000 times over. Let's try another. Oh yeah, yeah, here comes the fun. Here comes the fun of mini ITX building, is when you drop every little thing, because none of these are ferromagnetic, and it gets hidden under 7,000 other components. It's really a grand time. So that one's good. I think this one's just off kilter a little bit. I think what's happening is we're spinning it in its socket. That's exactly what's happening. Yep, we just weren't tight on the rear end, giggity. Number 3, okay, we're in. So my plan is get all this crap hooked up, basically everything but the GPU fired up. And as we can see, this CPU cooler is just over in height. So I would say there are low profile fans to be bought that would work. So time being, I'm gonna rock it without anything on it, but if I want to keep using the acrylic, and we'll see how it looks when, you know, it's all together, to be for sure, but I'd say I'll want to, then we might go that route. And I think I used, nope, is it on the floor? I'm looking for one more motherboard screw. All right, I had to steal one off the other set that I had, but it works, so let's, oh yeah, this one's impossible. This one is rage-inducing. Get in there. Get in there. Oh, look at you. You're ferromagnetic enough just to want to stand up on the screwdriver tip, but nothing else. I need a pair of tweezers for this sort of thing. All right, Leatherman it is. There we go. I'll tell you guys another unnerving thing about making content out of this kind of stuff is it's dead quiet. I don't have anyone else but me and the air conditioning to accompany this intense stare down between man and machine. So it makes things that much more, I wouldn't say less enjoyable, but less recreational. I'll definitely put it that way. And I think we're in business. I could start hooking everything else up. So SATA, here's where routing is gonna get fun. I think the first one is the one we want for SATA. which is right behind where the fan plugs in, and it's gonna be a pain. Of course, I had to have a right angle connector on this to make it that much more. That might not go. We're gonna move up the next one. Surely they made all these the same speed, but I don't think that's the case. I'll have to break out the motherboard manual, but I got an SSD. I'm really not worried about getting 100% speed. I just so happen to have it. Okay, it's in. That's all I care about. Next will be, we got SPDIF audio. We got cable, we got headers there that'll go there. SPDIF, we can run up here. That is it. It's always so close to being too short. It's the same story for the last case. There we go. Okay. Make sure that's out of the GPU's way. Good. Now this, I'm just going to kind of tuck in here willy-nilly. We got USB headers. Should be able to put here. Gorgeous. We'll secure that a little better so we know everything else is good. Honestly, to be as compact as this is, cable management isn't looking bad. Like, it's really tidy. You got so much space underneath it, and I mean, once we get all that tied down, we're gonna have a lot of dead space over there. I'm not complaining. I'm gonna flip this around so I can see better via the lights. We've got HDD LED, reset, PLED, so power. I don't think the polarity matters on power. Let's see if I can get this right the first try. Hard drive, reset. Is it power switch or power LED? Power button. Okay, so we got. Stay down, dude. I just need you. I don't cough on the components. I just need you down for like 3 seconds. How we doing, camera? We're at 28%. It's 28%. Yeah. Let's get this thing put together. I'll let the camera rest and then we'll finish up later. Power button, reset, hard drive, stuff. Okay, that's what we need. Out of all the enhancements to PCs over the years, standardized, ATX, standards, didn't need one of those words, but you know what I mean. CPU, cooler mounting, RAM, all that stuff. I don't understand how this hasn't become one cable. Like, why are we still using this little frayed shit? I don't understand it. I mean, I get it would be a change to cases, but I mean, over the course of 5 years, we went from IDE and ribbon cables to SATA and all that, so it's really not an excuse, I don't feel like. I don't understand why we're still using this archaic shit when everything else has been streamlined so well. Because honestly, as a novice PC builder, this might be the most frustrating thing for someone new, because you got all your pretty new expensive components plugged in, wasn't a big deal, but to get the damn thing powered on without a screwdriver, you gotta have the hands of a seahorse embryo to be able to fit into some of this stuff. Oh, come on, man. And it's an exponential difficulty because once you get some of them in, the rest become harder. So, yeah, that's my biggest complaint about PC building. And on some cases, no big deal. And I think that's why no one's really said anything, brought it up in a legitimate business way. Like, look at that. I can't. I've got one in and I can't get the rest in. I don't, and I'd be okay if it's like SPDIF audio or USB where it's all one solid head because they're all laid out the same basically. But why are they loose? Just makes it such a pain in the ass. And the fact that the LEDs are single, that may be the worst thing. You're forcing two single guys to mingle together. They have nothing in common. One's positive, one's negative. Already have a recipe for disaster. One might say they're polar opposites even. Hick, hick, hick. There are a few things in this world that really, really test my patience. And it really all has to do with randomness, which I think this is an exercise in. There's unstable internet connections when everything else is otherwise fine. There's no real reason for it to happen. There's guitars that will randomly go out of tune. That'll drive me up the wall. Though most of the time you can kind of trace it back to a diagnosable source. And there's that. Those are the big ones, to be completely honest. So we're plugged in. We got everything. I think I'm gonna go ahead and, yeah, we got 22% there. I'm gonna go ahead and plug in the GPU, worry about tidying everything else up. I wanna get this thing powered on, make sure everything's good to go, and then we will return at a later time to do all the other pretty stuff. So Zotac in high res, not high, actually no higher resolution, just higher fidelity, I'll put it that way. How does this I don't know. Let's find out. See if we can just pop in there. I'm just wondering, there's no lip for it to go. Let me see if there's anything special on there. Nope. Maybe it just sits over it. I mean, that's possible. I just don't want to force it in the wrong way. Because there's that little thingamadoohickey. I think I found, yeah, I think this is supposed to have popped out already. That's what it was. Okay. Our worries are no more. That, my friends, is a secured computational, unitational. I don't know which screw they want us to use. Everything kind of fits everything in this case, which makes stuff more confusing. I don't know if this will hold it. It's flat, which I like. And it looks like it's gonna, so that's what we're gonna use. So this is already more of an organized project than I thought it was gonna be. So the fact that we're just skimming random screws and components, all part of the plan, really, when you think about it. So let's get this power ran. It looks sick. I'm really liking the visuals. We only got a little bit of rainbow going on there. So let's do that. Ugh. Goodbye, sick LED strips. So sick, not really. Okay, we're plugged in. We should see, yep, we got our light, which is good. I need to find a spare HDMI cable real quick. 16%, we are cutting it close, ladies and gentlemen. Cutting it close. So can we find HDMI 2? Should be right under that one. Oh, we did. Ballin'. All right, let's find out which one does what. Woo! Look at that. All right, I'm not even gonna lie. That's pretty freaking awesome. CPU fan error. That's interesting, considering there's most definitely a CPU fan and it's running. And it's in the correct spot. Not quite sure what error that'd be giving. Oh well, it's plugged up and it works. I'm not sure that this Zotac cooler isn't too tall though. Like, look at that. Hope this isn't in the way. Slight one, but definitely. So there's gonna be some bowing in that no matter what, I think. I mean, it did say single slot low profile, so I assumed that one was, or dual slot half height low profile. Well, it is what it is, you know? It works. I'm not gonna like play it or anything tonight, but it's in a safer spot. I guess next steps, I'm gonna look for a similar low profile fan, get this thing basically 100% wrapped up and in a package that I can seal up and take with me. And then we'll look into making it bare bones and making it work with a Xbox 360 chassis. So that'd be pretty cool. Listen to that. Thing's loud. We knew that going in though. Anyway, thanks for watching. We will see you next time on FRANKEN-BOX. Selfie. Bye.